Hi everyone, a very good evening. You're watching The Money Show on ET Now. I'm Mubina Kapasi. This is the show where we get you your daily dose of personal finance lessons. But for all our regular viewers of The Money Show, you'll know that every Friday we metamorphosize, if you could call it that, into the women's show. We bring you week after week a panel of intriguing, very interesting women who've left a mark for other women to follow and, of course, are successful in their respective fields. Let's tell you what our topic for today is and who, of course, we have on our panel for today. Well, the theme is entrepreneurial lessons for the Indian women. Unfortunately, in the startup universe, in the funding universe, the number of startups led by a women are few and far in between. There have been instances where women-led startups often find it more difficult than their male peers to find funding. It's a sorry state of affairs that we are seeing even today in the year 2020, but it is a fact. Secondly, many a times women, of course, given the fact that society has labeled them as the primary caregiver, are often torn between handling a business and handling a home. Of course, women do it, but the gender roles engraved of sorts in our society is something that often comes in the middle of them being able to take their businesses to new heights. So what exactly are the entrepreneurial lessons that women can learn from their peers, from other successful women? I have with me a panel of such women. First up, Archana Khosla Burman. She's the founder, partner of Vertices Partners. She's an advisor, a mentor to startups. She is, in fact, in the process of creating a platform as well for women entrepreneurs and is very active and very vocal in that area. Moving on, Swati Bhargava, co-founder of CashKaro EarnKaro. Her name often appears in the 40 under 40 lists and what have you. She's turned around the online shopping landscape and hers is as well quite a successful entrepreneurial journey. Bhavna Juneja, she is the co-founder of MPowered and a serial entrepreneur. She has single-handedly built businesses across the segments of designing, interiors, manufacturing, life sciences, technology, and is definitely a role model for many. And finally, Tanvi Malik, she's the co-founder of Street Essentials, or what all us ladies more commonly know as Fab Ali and India. Her company's revenues have managed to grow 10x from 2014 to 2020. And what's more, she's managed to raise money amidst the pandemic. Like I told you, they're all very, very inspirational ladies. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome all of you on board, Archana, Swati, Bhavna, as well as Tanvi. So thank you so much once again, ladies, for joining us today on The Money Show and on ET Now. So Archana, you know what, I'm going to start off with you first. You have this tremendous experience of close to 2 decades, in the world of entrepreneurship. You've taken on various fields as well on the legal side, and now, of course, you're into business advisory. Let's start off first by understanding, according to you, how is the current business environment for women entrepreneurs? I'm sure we have seen an improvement year after year, for women entrepreneurs, where the environment has perhaps become a bit more conducive for them being able to, continue their businesses successfully. But to what extent, Archana? I mean, I'm sure you'll agree with me when I say that there is a lot more that needs to be done there.
Thank you, Mubina. Pleased to be here today. Mubina, my reading of the current environment is that despite our country having a flourishing startup ecosystem, there are still just a handful of women entrepreneurs, as we see. And there is a reasonable amount of things being done at both institutional and individual level for women empowerment, women enablement. But if you look at statistics, it still isn't visible in the numbers. We see a very minuscule portion of representation of women-led ventures. And then to add to that, the percentage of the women entrepreneurs who have started a venture and raised capital is actually a fraction of the number of their male counterparts. So even if you look at 2020, globally, venture capital funding for female founders has hit its lowest. And in fact, similar is the situation in India as well. Mubina, I feel to understand the situation we have been in for years now, it is important to look at the journey or life cycle of a woman entrepreneur, as that entails a lot of facets to my mind. starting by going all the way back to the conditioning or the upbringing to even now where women are constantly making an endeavor to break the stereotype. When we talk about changes, we definitely are seeing a stark improvement. Today, in gender boundaries are blurring, attitudes seem to be changing radically on a societal level. Women are now leaders and working professionals in their own right. With the right kind of support being created, I think both men and women are taking on new roles, be it in their marriages or the phenomena of equal parenting, and which is not just about sharing baby care responsibilities, but housework, breadwinning, some me time as well. I think it is a culmination of all of this support system for a woman that helps in creating the necessary wherewithal to take the entrepreneurial plunge. So while we have come a long way and there is a glimmer of hope, but there is still a reasonable amount of ground that needs to be covered.
Answer.
Definitely reasonable amount of ground. You know, Swati, you started, CashKaro in roughly 2011. E-commerce was still very new. The boom period, of course, came much later. Was it tough getting acceptance for your business? How open, is the business community and the world, to a new business idea or something where, women are entering a new field? How open are they and receptive are they?
Well, I can't complain at all about my experience. So, me and my husband, Rohan, we were actually working in London. I was at Goldman Sachs for 5 years and left that to start our UK cashback business, Pouring Pounds. That was actually in 2011. And then we launched CashKaro in India in 2013. So like you said, even in 2013, e-commerce was new. And I remember having the initial meetings with Flipkart and Snapdeal. And I remember tweeting to somebody saying, sorry, we don't have Amazon. Can you shop on Snapdeal via CashKaro? And I got a tweet from Amazon saying, hey, why don't you have us as a partner? We want to be on the platform, right? So that's how we got Amazon. And once we got the ball kicking at the start, then, most of the other retailers, e-commerce sites, we actually partnered with them on a performance basis. So that's what our business model is, that we actually partner with e-commerce sites. They pay us commission for every transaction and we pass cash back to our customers. So because we work on a performance marketing model, we actually did not face a lot of resistance from our clients who were these e-commerce sites, because everybody was doing branding and spending, but who doesn't want performance marketing? You're only paying if you get a transaction. There's no downside. So that's why I think the model was very well accepted. I think more than the acceptance, what has been a challenge is just how to, continue being a vertical leader and coining the word cashback. So you get extra cashback from CashKaro. What does that mean? This cashback is different from bank cashback, from Paytm cashback. So, the education around the sector, I think, is the responsibility of the vertical leader. And we've done a decent job at it, I think, also because India loves to save money. So we've got lucky like that. People want to, they don't mind going via CashKaro to Amazon, so they get extra cash back. I mean, I have over 2 lakhs of cash back already. And in the process, we raised money first from an angel round of funding in UK, and then Kalari Capital Series A. Then Mr. Tata came on board as an investor. And this year, amidst the pandemic, we did our Series B, which was led by Korea Investment Partners, $10 million. So I think there is no bias whatsoever that I have faced in this industry. I think if the product is good, investors are there to support.
Okay, interesting take, really. And yes, ladies, remember, it's not always black and white. Everybody has different experiences. And, I'm so glad to hear a story where Swati believes that, as long as your product is good, a pure meritocracy-based system, right? I mean, who wouldn't love that? Bhavna, what about you? I think you've had experience in a wide spectrum of industries. So you would be able to, give us some representation from all of these industries. Something like manufacturing, especially there where representation is low. Maybe not, design, but I think manufacturing is something where, women don't really have too much of a presence. What do you think that barrier as well is breaking down, and do you think it's easier today for a women entrepreneur to do something in manufacturing or on any of the other industries that you believe women weren't really there earlier?
Like Swati rightly said, there are multifaceted experiences that you have in different industry verticals, and I've had a mixed bag of experiences, whether it comes to being in the IT vertical or into the fashion and interior industry and now into the real estate side. When I talk about the IT segment, it's so male dominated. And it's always looked at that women need to be in the backside because, they are mothers and they are, they need to be wives and they need to take care of their kids. So they never really can come and, inculcate and, cultivate their talents, even though they are well educated. Now, if I talk about, on the leadership roles on IT, we see a lot more women outside of India. And now we are seeing that trajectory of women coming more in leadership, which is, a fresher breath. It's really, promising to see these kind of women coming in India. When I talk about manufacturing, I still see that, there is really not much growth for women to come into that sector, only because, they need those tie-ups, in order to make sure that those are sold. So manufacturing is a different vertical and actually selling them is a different vertical. And being that, I've recently entered into the real estate world, I do see only a fraction or maybe numbered women in this industry. And that's really challenging, for us to bring more women on the forefront in this sector, especially in India, and how we can stitch technology with it. In fact, we are coming up with a model wherein we are going to be hiring more and more women to come into the real estate industry, whether it's, brokerage or whether it's facility management. But again, the gender biased, I've faced it in IT, I've faced it in fashion interiors as well as real estate. But I think that, every industry teaches you to get to the next level and get better and have a thicker skin and conquer your talent and, your vision and making to reality. I mean, that's my take on it.
All right. Okay, very interesting indeed. Tanvi, what about, I understand that you have a co-founder. Both of you have started this amazing business. Admittedly, I as well, I'm an ardent shopper on Fab Alley. How was your journey? If you could, tell us about how it started off. Did you face any resistance? Do you think it was perhaps a little tougher for you because of your gender? Or do you think all of that now is a thing of the past?
My journey and our journey, because both my co-founder and I, Shivani and I, we are a women-led company. It's not like the entire founding team is women, right? So it's been a little different from some of the others that have been spoken about. First things first, we were both at the time that we incepted Fab Alley, working in very serious corporate jobs. I was in Bangalore, Shivani was in Bombay. And I come from a family of doctors. My parents, my mother and father, both are doctors. And when we thought of Fab Alley, I think it wasn't so much as how are two women going to do this. It was another leap of faith that, how when you've always thought of like climbing the corporate ladder, when you've always thought of working with a larger organization, how are you going to start up? And I think that was the biggest challenge for both of us. And Shivani was, of course, she was with her investment bank and she was working in finance. And we somehow, when we started talking about Fab Alley and the need for democratizing fashion in the country and providing fast fashion, affordable fashion, online, giving access to Indian women that women in other parts of the world are so used to that they take for granted. It just felt like an agent of change, and we were there to see it and we needed to create it. So with this overpowering sentiment, we moved back and the differences that arise, the differences between men and women startups started arising that time. So convincing our parents was fine because I think both of us had always been very academically serious and serious about our careers. So they always understood that this is going to be, once we showed the business plan to them, they understood that this is going to be something that we are fully invested in. Never did they think that it was like how women tend to be archetyped as passion project or hobby or they're doing fashion. It was never like that. For us, I think we couldn't even think of raising money for the first year or so because we knew we needed to prove our concept. And I think and we saw a lot of startups in that space, like around 2012, 13, some which are there, a lot which are not even there anymore. These were concept funded startups. They had their seed money before the first day of operation. And that's something that we knew that we wouldn't get. And it's again a mixed bag. Like, being 24 and starting out, it's very early anyway. And then on top of that experience in those verticals, we didn't have it. We were women. So we knew that we needed to really prove ourselves more and harder for at least a year before we raised funding. So for a year, like, we put in like our sweat, we bootstrapped the company, and we worked out of like a backyard, like with just like a table between the two of us, and like doing everything ourselves. And things were quite difficult that time. I think we wanted to hire 3 or 4 people, and most of the people that we would get to even talk to us would be older than us. And we've gotten comments like, we like what you're saying, but how do we trust, like, you're 2 young girls at the end of the day? So these things, in retrospect, they seem, there's a sense of humor, and there's a sense of like acceptance about it, because these are all challenges that we surmounted. But at some points, those actually felt like hiring, technology, building the back end, supply chain, all of this felt really, really heavy for us, because because there was very little faith that like people that we sought out, agencies, third parties, that had in us at that point of time. So I think this is what I can generalize from my experience, is that at least in the first few years, women have to work doubly hard to sort of get the same seriousness, importance.
Tanvi, I have actually so many follow-up questions for you, because firstly, getting your family to take you seriously. You started your business at a really young age. Then getting your employees, prospective employees, when you go out to hire, to take you seriously. I totally get the dilemma that you may have found yourselves in, both of you all, in fact. And I'm definitely going to, have many follow-up questions on that for all the young potential entrepreneurs watching. But before that, I have to take a very short break. So ladies, stay on with me. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You were watching The Women's Show, where we're in conversation with 4 women on their entrepreneurial journey, and of course the lessons that they have in store for all the potential entrepreneurs. Archana, you sit on the advisory boards for various startups. So you have the first-hand experience of sort of dealing with all these entrepreneurs. What are the most common questions these entrepreneurs ask you?
So one of the most commonly asked questions which are asked is that if investors look at gender. And, what I tell them is that while I don't take away the fact that there may be an unconscious bias which exists even today, as there are many women founders who have felt the commitment to their venture questioned by being asked personal questions on marriage, children, work-life balance, etc. But given my interaction with some pedigreed investors, I would like to believe that for a large part of the investors community, it is really the person who matters and not the gender. Does the person really understand the problem they're trying to solve? Have you put an innovative product? Can you scale it? Can you generate revenues? Can there be market penetration? Is there understanding of the customers? What is your team? It's mainly these factors which the investors really look at. And to my mind, it is typically a very gender agnostic thinking that happens, because at the end of the day, the investors also have to look at their IRR and the return on capital, and gender doesn't ascertain that. But I do strongly believe that half the battle is lost if you are thinking too much that you will be judged based on your gender, as that will determine the way you will be presenting the pitch. And if the investor doesn't see confidence in you for your own venture, it'll be a little difficult to expect them to have confidence in you. So I always tell them to start by overcoming this feeling when going for a pitch to an investor. The other very common question which is asked is how to be fundraise ready, or what is the right time to raise funds. And simply put, I answer by saying that first and foremost, you have to ascertain whether a fundraise is required at all or not, as that's a very strategic decision, and it's not necessary that every venture needs funding. There are enough and more ventures we are aware of who are doing well, who have been bootstrapped as well. So that's a strategic decision which needs to be taken. The right time to raise capital will be as unique to you as your business plan and the products that you offer. So those need to be factored accordingly. And I think depending on the stage of your venture, you also need to determine as to what kind of capital you're looking at. So if you're at the POC or MVP stage, then you're looking at seed capital. If your business has reached a product market fit, then you're really looking at venture capital. And if your business has reached exceptional traction and you're looking at, expanding to international markets, or for that matter, fighting competitors, then you're looking at growth capital. The other important element is to do your research on the investor, as different investors are specialized in specific stages and sectors. So understanding these differences are extremely useful for an efficient fundraising round and targeting the right investors at each raise.
All right. Okay. What was, Swati, what was your experience in fundraising? You're wildly successful. So how did you pitch to prospective investors? Any recommendations you have for potential entrepreneurs?
Well, thank you for the compliment. I actually want to start by telling you that, I grew up in a small town called Ambala, and I was always like good in studies. In 10th, I topped the state of Haryana. I got 100 on 100 in maths, but I was still thinking, ki aage kya karna hai? And that was probably going to Delhi for me, because nobody from Ambala had ever gone abroad to study. So I got the Singapore Airlines scholarship. I was one of the very few girls actually who got it. Then I got the London School of Economics scholarship. Again, very few girls. At Goldman Sachs, I was the only girl in my team for 5 years, and I had 7 male bosses, not even Indian, one Australian, one UK, one different countries, because London is just that kind of a hub. And then coming into, the whole startup scene, again, tech startups, the number of women are much lesser than men. So I have, for my entire life, always been in domains where women are less and men are more. But honestly, it has never bothered me. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's even the least place where, you should get bothered by it, because all of us are entrepreneurs first, and then we are women entrepreneurs. So I don't, even when I talk to women, who have businesses, I tell them, don't think about it. Don't think at all, whether you're a guy or a girl. At the end of the day, the investors are going to look at a few things. They're going to look at what is the product, right? Is there a product market fit? Do you understand the product? Second, they're going to look at evidence of traction. And I think this is the point why a lot of people don't manage to raise money, because trying to raise money at idea stage, or if you have, a little bit of growth, and then you say, okay, but if I get money, I'll get a lot of growth. We don't have very risky investors, so to speak, in India. They like to put money when it's, the traction is a little more visible. So that's why I think it needs, the right time to fundraise, while you might need the money before. But realistically, it happens when you can start showing some more traction, And then the third thing investors look at is, how big can this business be? Which is also a problem, I think, sometimes with certain businesses, which tend to be like not VC funded types, because, they can't, like for VCs, they want to see an Excel which can show them that this can be $1 billion business someday. Because if you're saying $1 billion today, at least you will hit 500, 600. But if you go in with the pitch saying, look, this can be an $80 million business, then they're just thinking 10-20 yoga, right? So I think the size of the business is really important, because the more that investors think they will be able to get a part of it, of the total market size, that's important. And the fourth is evidence of a team, so if you try to go to raise money and say, look, I know this and I'll be really good at it, what the investor is thinking, okay, but tomorrow if you're not there, what happens to the business? What happens to my money? I can't invest only on one person, right? So it's really important to demonstrate that you have a stable team and a support system at work, and you have experts at work doing their job. Like, I don't need to be the expert in creative and in Excel and in, product and everything. I should have experts for everything. So I think very often what happens is when we do investor pitches, we are lacking in one of these four things, and that's why it doesn't work. But for me, I've been lucky to have a co-founder. Rohan is my husband and co-founder. And I think together we managed to distribute some of these things and do a bit of a divide and conquer and make it work.
Excellent. All right. So I have time, for two quick questions. I'm just going to squeeze in one more. Tanvi, you raised funds, that too during a pandemic year, crisis. Was it tough? And also, Bhavna, I'm going to take the liberty to squeeze in one more question with you. You're a serial entrepreneur. So your advice, to other budding entrepreneurs. Tanvi, you go first.
Startups are new.
Yeah, it was tough, but I think it was tough for the entire world to survive, every industry, every organization to survive at that point of time because, unprecedented, right? What's happened and what's been happening. For us, we've always been fiscally prudent. When we built FabAlley, we were very clear that we don't want to chase scale at the expense of the bottom line. In fact, we've been, except for this COVID hit financial year, at the end of the last financial year, we've been EBITDA and PAT positive for the last 2 years. And for an online-led e-commerce fashion company, that is very rare in the country. So for us, I think even being as financially prudent as we've always been, even valuing, always looking at the bottom line first and not necessarily at the top line. We realized that we needed to raise money to stay afloat because nobody knew at that time, and even then, how long this would be. So given that revenue at the time, and we're talking about the first lockdown, was basically zero, and nobody had any visibility on when these lockdowns will be lifted and in what format. It was very challenging because we didn't think that it would make sense to reach out to a completely new fund because every time we've been invested in series with IN, with SEF, with India Quotient, all of these have been long drawn meetings and face-to-face and, them completely absorbing what the organization is all about, spending hours of immersion with us and our teams. And all of these things were not possible at that time. So for us, a lot of the planning was with SEF and India Quotient at that point of time. And, we pitched to their IC and they were extremely encouraging. And I think that given our track record of delivering, of doubling revenues year on year and staying profitable, that really helped us. And we were able to not only raise from these existing investors again, but also add a few family offices that we, pitched to through Zoom and with the support of these large funds. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Bhavna, very quickly, I just have a couple of seconds. Very quickly, if you could wrap up, what would you recommend potential entrepreneurs?
I would definitely tell potential entrepreneurs that, understand that the fact that you have a desire to become an entrepreneur, you've already taken your first step. Like in MPowered, I started from being a door-to-door salesperson at the age of 17, and today I'm a serial investor and entrepreneur. So you being a woman, whether a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. It is important that if you have that passion and the vision to become an entrepreneur, conquer your dreams, come on the platform, be profitable, and have a vision where you can make other people profitable and have a great ROI.
Ladies, I've extended my appointment, but I'm sure this entire panel discussion was very helpful to all potential entrepreneurs. Archana, Swati, Bhavna, Tanvi, thank you so much for joining in today. And of course, you can catch this entire interview on ET Now's YouTube channel. But with that, we'll take a very short break.